Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we've got 10 games on Friday night here to end the work week in the NBA for you guys. In this one, we're taking a look at a pretty fun matchup, I would say. Denver and the number 2 seed in the West, Memphis Grizzlies in Denver, looking for some revenge for the Nuggets. There they are. Go ahead and make sure to like and subscribe to this page. We've also got another game video up for you tonight and our player props that we're bringing you each and every weekday this season. Also want you to head to thelines.com. You can check out all the great content we have up there about the NBA and more as we're moving along here, getting towards the tail end of this season. Also have our odds finder tool up there for you guys. Make sure you're getting the best odds available to you. We've got a really nice chart that displays it right there for you guys. Make sure you can find the best juice coming back on your bets this season. Nate, let's go ahead and jump into this 10-game slate and then talk about our game, Nuggets and Grizz.
Yeah, and we are recording this on Thursday night due to a little work conflict, so 2 lines not up yet with the Clippers and Warriors playing. We got Magic -3 at Hornets, Nets +11 at Celtics. We got Blazers +7 at the Hawks. Thunder are +2 at home without SGA against the Jazz. The Suns -6 at Bulls. That's the other game we break down. Total's only 222. Knicks have gone from +1 to -2 at the Heat. Pelicans will be at the Warriors, waiting on the line there. Clippers at the Kings, also waiting on that line. And then the Wolves are -2 at the Lakers. AD should be back after missing a game there. Grizz +6 or +5.5 at Denver. And yeah, like you said, it is a quick revenge spot for Denver after getting handled in Memphis. Memphis's road record is so stark right now that I almost feel like it's just a trap to assume it's going to continue. But unlike how I usually preach, which is saying like, oh, okay, you need to tease this one. I'm not sure if Denver can cover 6. If they win, they're going to win handily. Like, Memphis is a total front-running team. They just beat up on the LeBron-less Lakers. And then they tend to fall back. And if it's not going their way early, they do give up. They're 0-9 straight up as road dogs, and the margin of victory is -15.5 points per game. Look, they have won 4 of their last 5 against Denver when Ja is active, but it's not like that's just about Ja. I mean, we saw last season how they were just a much more well-rounded, deep team that they kept winning without him. He's only a +7 over those 5 matchups, and he's -19 in the 2 matchups at Denver. And really the big thing here is the home road splits for both teams. I mean, they're just huge across the board. Denver's the best offense in the league when they're at home. Also one of the best defenses. Number 2 opponents 3-point shooting. Number 10 in transition D, which is key here. In their last 3 overall, they're allowing the second fewest free throws. And then Memphis, where do they struggle? I mean, they struggle with assisted field goals everywhere. They're dead last in that department on the road. Also, 5th worst 3-point defense, 8th worst in terms of free throw attempts allowed. So, The Joker, I think, is going to have a very nice game here with no Steven Adams. We've been trying to pick on Memphis for a while in terms of them just not being as good on either end without Adams. I think maybe, surprisingly, it's their offense that dips more than their defense without him. And maybe that is reason to be bold with an under here. But Denver's pretty much clockwork getting 120 at home. So you're almost then assuming Memphis is going to get shut down. And the recent meetings between these teams, and Memphis's tendency to just get blown out or do the blowing out, makes you just think, yeah, let's take Denver -5.5, 6, whatever it is, and just hope that kind of flip-flops nature continues. The one thing that gives me pause is the way you built this up, as this is the number 2 seed against the number 1 seed. The season's almost over. I don't know if Memphis can actually catch up. Aaron Gordon's questionable. If he does not play, I would actually be quite nervous because they need his defense against this particular team. But assuming everybody's a go, I think Denver does handle business.
Yeah. I'm choking back laughter as you were talking about whether or not Memphis blows someone out or gets blown. out. But yeah, either way, I think the last thing you said too about the standings there, if Memphis is 5.5 back right now in those standings, and if they're down, and they continue to have that sort of well, let's just give up, and why would we continue to come back and fight and claw kind of mentality, then it would only be exacerbated by the fact that they'd probably be really disappointed that they knew that this was a game they had to win to have a shot at really, the 2 points that it's a 2-point swing either way, so that they know they got to win it in terms of in the standings, right? In terms of 2 games back either way. But I think part of it is because the way that they have to play to win and to beat you takes so much energy. They have so many energy points. There's no assisted field goals, to the point that you made a minute ago, which is a huge problem. The only type of assisted field goal they ever find is Ja slashing through the lane and then kicking out to guys standing around the 3-point line, a la the Dallas Mavericks offense, which, as we know, works really great sometimes when you have a guy like Ja or Luka that can get into the paint. Also just doesn't work all of the time because the variance is too high. And if guys just decide to play off the guy who's driving and get out on the shooters, then they're going to be fine. Like we said, Denver really good at defending the 3. Memphis not really good at defending or at shooting the 3 at all, as they haven't been forever, basically since the Tony Allen days of those grit and grind Grizzlies. They still haven't had 3-point shooting ever since then. And Desmond Bane, as important as he is not really a playmaker. Which too often makes him a spot up shooter, and is another reason that it sort of neutralizes his ability when he's not getting into the lane himself. So, and that's been the case for him for a bit, struggling over the last 3-4 weeks or so. But I think that the key for this game is Denver at home, and just bet on them and bet on the fact that they're going to build a lead. And if they do, like we said, then Memphis gives up. I'm very excited to tell you the stat that I was looking at, because I just kept typing in, what are Denver's stats at home with Jokic over the last 10 games? It was like, oh shit, they're 10-0 and they score 128 points a game in that time frame. I was like, oh, let's keep going. 15 games, they're 15-0. What about 20 games? They're 20-0. I had to get to 21 games before they had lost. Really, they're 22 games. They're 21-0 in their last home games with Joker. All of those this season, where it's just insane. And actually, in their last 30, dating back to last season, they're 28-2 in those 30 games at home when Nikola Jokic plays. And it's all the things that they're best at in all those games and in that time frame is what Joker does. Number 1 in assists. They have the highest field goal percentage, unshockingly. 13 3-pointers made on a really high percentage at 40, 99.5 pace, basically the same pace. So everything is just Joker being in control of the ball, being a maestro there on the strings of everything that's happening. And so I think that's going to continue to be the case without Steven Adams. Interestingly, I just want to throw this out there because I also think it's hyper relevant that the Nuggets are at home here, because when they have won 3 of 4 at home, what you said about Ja is true. When Ja's played in the last 5 games that he's played in, they've won 4 of them. 3 of those were at home. For the Grizz, right? And so that's a huge part of it. He just happened to miss a couple road games against the Nuggets. So that's the correlation that I make there. And then the other thing about this being at home is just that's where Joker has played well against the Grizzlies. He's played horribly actually against them on the road for him. A couple games with 15 points or less actually in Memphis of late. So that's where some of the numbers, and actually when Steven Adams isn't in, he's also not been that great. But once again, those numbers correlate with when they play in Memphis. Steven Adams missed a couple games in Memphis at home versus these Nuggets, and that's why Joker, once again, he had a game with 28 minutes that he played because it was like they were down by double digits in the fourth, et cetera, et cetera. So all the things that might be contrasting to my belief that the Nuggets are going to win this game by at least 5 points, I can give you really solid counter arguments for. So I'm just going to continue to believe in them tonight, or tomorrow night rather.
Yeah, I mean, what you said about Ja, again, it's really been the problem all year. It's kind of like empty calories. Like, he had 38 points in December against Denver, and they lose. And you see those kind of stat lines all the time from him, because it's just, there's not the same depth. There's not the same secondary playmaking. Like you're saying, Desmond Bane is capable. I don't want to hear you slander him and say he's not a playmaker.
No, I won't.
It's just that the offense is not really flowing through multiple sources. Yeah, it's just kind of that high energy situation for Ja. I mean, that's absolutely stunning that they've won 21 in a row with the Joker. It makes me want to just say, put that money line in with whatever else you're looking at on this 10-game slate. If you are a little bit concerned about Memphis fighting down to the wire, But if Memphis does fight down the wire, we're probably going over because, again, 128 points per game in their last 10 at home are the Nuggets. So they're almost getting you over by themselves here. I mean, Steven Adams has not been stopping Joker when he's active. I mean, maybe Xavier Tillman does a better job, but it doesn't really matter who you throw at the Joker. If he's at home, he's going to be scoring. And Jamal Murray, who we don't really matter, he's fully back. Like, he hasn't played in some of these home games, but when he's out there, they're just really tough to defend. I mean, he looks almost like bubble Jamal Murray again, and that makes his team really scary. We are talking about the Kevin Durant Suns here, and I think it's a perfect opportunity to just buy low on offense in this game. I mean, both of these teams have been under machines. The Suns go under in this situation all the time. 18-8 against the Eastern Conference. They've gone under in 7 of their last 10. And the Bulls have gone under in 15 of their last 19. And as Josh has pointed out in some other videos, suddenly the best defensive rating in the league out of the All-Star break after with some fresh legs here. Number 1 in fast break points allowed. Number 1 paint points allowed. Second in net rating. Playing at a slow pace, which is the scary part here. Like 95 pace, but the Suns in their first game with KD played at 100 pace, which is something, they hadn't gotten above 98 in 8 of their 9 previous ones. And, I mean, yes, you have a 91 defensive rating against the LaMelo-less Hornets. That's great, but the Bulls have a little bit more firepower than that. I mean, they've got guys that I don't think have really, in terms of DeRozan, I don't think has really been unleashed. We talked about the numbers he puts up on extra rest, but they haven't really needed him because they've been shutting down some bad offenses. I think you can say the Nets, Wizards, and Magic, their last 3 home games have just held them all below 100. You look at their previous home games against the Bucks and Blazers, though, offenses that actually do scare you, and they have defensive rating around 123. It is a bit of smoke and mirrors saying the Bulls are suddenly a top-tier defense. And I mean, even if you are, you're now talking about Kevin Paul Booker, the unstoppable machine that looked like they've already been playing together for years. They had a little bit of an extra rest baked in before that debut, where I think they definitely worked on some things, talked about some things in terms of defining the roles. Booker, still the man with a 40% usage rate. KD, ultra efficient, 23 points on 15 shots. And then CP3 not even looking to shoot. 11 dimes, 15% usage rate. It's going to be a pretty easy transition. As everybody's saying, KD is the most adaptable superstar, and he's just going to step right in. And the Bulls have had no answers for him when he was with the Nets. He averaged 34 points per game with a 134 rating. The Suns have won 6 straight over Chicago, scoring 127. With the pace being below 100 in all those games. Although the last time they faced each other, the pace was 101.7. Both Booker and DeMar DeRozan had 38 points, and the game totaled 245. So we don't need it to go crazy. We just need it to be relatively high scoring, a normal NBA game in today's world. Right. And I think with Kevin Durant on the side, that probably going to be closer to 30 minutes here in his second game back. I just trust there to be enough points flowing, and I'm just a little. I think the Bulls are going to find a way to hang around, whether it's high scoring or not, and that's why I'm a little reluctant to just say Suns -6 on the road. This is a Bulls team that's very frustrating to try to bet against or short. I mean, they beat the Celtics twice early in the season. They will just step up when you try to count them out, and I think they'll be going blow for blow here with Durant, which definitely means points.
Yeah, I mean, the things I'm finding in this game, and what do you do with KD in there? I mean, they have one game against Charlotte. They won by 14. I don't know what to do with the way the offense flowed or didn't flow or just whatever. Charlotte's not going to play defense. If they weren't going to buckle before LaMelo Ball was out for the season, they definitely started to as soon as he was out. But yeah, I think in this one, I'm more looking at some of the trends that I think do play a role in what we're talking about here. First of all, Chicago is not good against the West. I do think that that holds some merit here. 6-13 against the spread in non-conference games this season. They tend to go over in those as well. About 11-8 against the total. Not about. They are 11-8 against the total in those games as well. And so I think there's something to be said for that. They are one of the best defenses in the league in the last 15 games for a decent reason, to be honest. Some of the lineups that they've been putting out there make sense, and even Pat Bev, who at this point has made it into, he's been played enough minutes at this point that you can put him into some serious, searches on different stat sites and say players who have played a minimum of 100 minutes, and Pat Bev is up there, so he's got enough time to say, all right, let's see what he's got in the 6-7 games he's played, and he's amongst one of, in two of the top 5 lineups, unsurprisingly, in terms of their defensive rating when he's in there. But even other guys that have, Andre Drummond has been getting roughly 21 minutes. Finally having a defensive center in there, something they haven't had since they traded Wendell Carter Jr. But right now, even though that's been the case for them, like I said, against the West, not quite the same. And against the West, not only have they been going over, not covering, their offensive rating has actually been better, and their defensive rating has been what I think we remember it when it was really bad, up to about 120, 119 and a half. So they're given their games are going at averaging about 240 points against Western Conference teams in their last 10 this season, where actually 8 of those have gone over. A few of those unders were earlier in the season when they had an even more anemic offense and actually some pretty bad defense, but they were just losing either way. They're a little bit better now. I'm still not so totally trusting of them. I do think it's scary because they could play spoiler here, but I do think that the Suns, the new look Suns, the fact that their back is against the wall, they're 3 games back of those Kangs for the Pacific Division, and I would imagine that they want to win that with just roughly 20 games left to play. So it's nut crunch time, and I don't think they have time to waste. Even if they are in Chicago, they got KD for a reason. They're locked in for a reason. So I'm a little bit less scared of taking them in this one, but honestly, Phoenix money line and an over 222.5 feels like a really nice bet. Also, on top of just get the money here and take the over 222.5 like we both feel comfortable with.
Yeah, I think there's a good correlation there between it being a high-scoring game and Phoenix winning, for sure. And Pat Bev, I mean, you mentioned 2 guys who play point guard and center and can't really guard up positions. Like, Pat Bev is not going to be on Durant or Booker necessarily. I mean, maybe he'll spend a little time on Book, but those 2 guys are
annoying.
It's like a flea to swat off. They're just not going to be bothered by where Chicago defends on the wing. I mean, it's Levine and DeRozan, who are in their own right excellent offensive players. Levine's averaging 28 with the 121 offensive rating in his last 12, and just had 41, I believe, last game. So he could certainly light it up and come back the other way. Yeah, I mean, the Suns, I would expect to win even before getting Durant. They had won 9 straight against non-playoff teams / the Brooklyn Nets, which we hope will be a non-playoff team when all is said and done. They, for some reason, they also beat the Celtics on the road in that span. 2 losses to Atlanta. For some reason, they can't handle them. But look, they, again, won 6 straight against this Chicago team. And the last 3 of the last 4 have gone over. So I think we're going to see a little bit more of that continue here. And like I said, because of the under trends before they shook things up a little bit here, you're getting some value in terms of the number at 222.
Yeah, and like I said, I like Phoenix. In answer to your question, not that you asked it, but you're saying why, for some reason, Atlanta, they're not good against point guards. They can't really guard point guards because Chris Paul is getting much older. He's used to be a crafty steals man, and I suppose he's still capable of that occasionally, but obviously career lows in steals this year as well, as amongst a number of other stats that are career lows for him. And at this point, who are you? The point guard on Chicago is who? Kobe White, like Ayo Dosunmu. That's not the position that Chicago attacks you from. So that's why I also like Phoenix in that sense. I think they're able to guard what you want to do if you're Chicago, which is that wing mid-range stuff. couple of 6'7+ guys at least all over the perimeter and inside the mid range for Phoenix to be able to win this one. But I would still say the pace and the ability or the tendency for these types of situations for Chicago to go over and be a little bit faster paced is a good situation for that over at 222.5. Very low in the modern day NBA, as we say. So Nate, let's go ahead and jump right into your first NBA play-a prop, my guy, Paolo Banchero.
Rookie of the Year special tonight. Yep. I mean, facing the Hornets after having one of the worst games of his rookie season against the Bucks, definitely a bounce back spot. It's a team that he's roasted to the tune of 21.5 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists in 2 games. And Charlotte had Mason Plumlee, Jalen McDaniels, and PJ Washington in those games. And none of those guys are there anymore. Now they just have Mark Williams and not a lot of people playing defense or anyone really trying to win games at this point that LaMelo Ball shut down for the year. It's time to play for ping pong balls. They had that nice little 5-game win streak. But in any case, I mean, this is not a defense that's built to stop bigs. All season they've struggled against bigs and second most rebounds to power forwards. And recently, in the 7 games since they traded Plumlee, they're allowing the most points per game to centers, 6th most assists. I mean, Paolo's not playing the 5. That's Wendell Carter, but it's just an example of the interior defense they're lacking. And on the entire season to power forwards, 2nd most assists. So I think you want maybe the whole PRA package at 31.5, but 20.5 points also seems pretty safe for Paolo to get over 20 tonight. And plus 210 for a double-double, because that Hornets offense, 91 points last time out with Terry Rozier, chucking, like we always like to say. If we could bet on missed field goals, he would be a gold mine now with LaMelo Ball out. There should be plenty of rebounding opportunities, and I think Paolo will be filling it up across the board.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe we throw that Terry Rozier turnover bet in there again. It hit in the first quarter, I think, of the last game where we took over 2.5, and he had 6 by the end of the game. The Magic scare me. I kind of, it's not that I jumped off the bandwagon anyway. You remember how much I love. They still cover games, and I still like picking them in the right spots. But sometimes I just get scared by who's going to be scoring. Paolo definitely hit a bit of a rookie wall as well. So that would be my only fear. But this is a team that he plays well against. It's a spot where it's like, it's Project 6'10". That's what we call the Orlando Magic. Just everybody is 6'10" or taller, so it's Project 6'10", which means there's a lot of fluidity. I mean, Wendell Carter Jr. is hitting threes this year, so I think he's just as much a center as Paolo Banchero can be at times as well with his rebound numbers. So I do like adding the rebounds in there for Paolo and some of the other stats as well to maintain in case he can't quite get to 21. Maybe he gets slightly lower, but I think the rebounds should be there for him as well. As you mentioned, like if PJ Washington doesn't play, that's huge for them. Poor Mark Williams, we're kind of shitting on him a little bit. It's our guy. He's been a pretty good stat filler at times, but still not ready yet necessarily to like own the paint of an NBA team. So a man who does own the paint for any NBA team he plays against is Nikola Jokic, which is why I'm going for the boards. And you're not going to get good odds as we're recording this on Thursday night because they're at 12.5 and minus 130 is the best we can find for those rebounding odds for him. By the time you see this video early tomorrow morning, maybe it's already gone up and there's actually better juice because they've upped it to about 13.5, in which case I might still take it, to be honest with you. But the points and rebounds is at 36.5. That's minus 109 on FanDuel. Pretty good odds there. 23.5 points feels low, and I'm going with the rebounds because I just prefer it. But even the 23.5 for Joker's like, I don't know, man, that's silly. Like who's really going to stop him one-on-one, right? Like Jaren Jackson Jr. is neutralized in what he can do against Jokic if Jokic has already got his back to the basket standing 2 feet from it. You're not going to block a baby hook, right? It's not how that works. So I would feel pretty good about Joker scoring in this one as well. Memphis, odd that they've been allowing the most points and rebounds to centers over their last 15 games. Well, not the most points, but in the top 5 most points and the most rebounds. Why? Because Steven Adams has been out and hasn't been able to play the 25 to 30 minutes he was getting before he went down. We talked about that in the game video and why, we feel confident about Joker able to really just control the paint down there. For both of these props, he's hit 5 of the last 7 in terms of the points and rebounds, especially. And the only exception was when there was a blowout versus Houston where he was out after a triple double in 28 minutes, which is an absurd thing to say. And then another game against Dallas, who I guess is really good at rebounding now because they had another good night against the Sixers earlier before we recorded this. He's hit He's hit the prop in 3 of his last 4 versus Memphis here as well. And then on 3 days rest, which I think is hyper relevant to the Joker. As we know how much usage he gets in his last 10 games on 3 days rest, 27 points per game basically, and about 13 boards. So it gets you to everywhere you need to be on all his props that we're talking about in this one. And I think it's a good situation with Steven Adams out tonight.
Threw in the Kiwi accent at the end. I like the points, I think, a little bit more than the rebounds, or I like the juice that you mentioned. When you combine the two, I do think he's going to score like 25 tonight as long as this game is relatively close, especially if Aaron Gordon or MPJ misses. But as long as Memphis hangs around, that's the one thing that concerns me, is that we talked about them folding, being a front-running team and not necessarily competing for 4 quarters. So maybe that's the only reason he doesn't get it. But anytime somebody challenges Denver at home, Joker just puts up these massive lines, and he should be filling it all up. But I'm sticking with rookies here, and final month of the season, the one guy who I think can overtake Paolo, who was minus 1,000 for rookie of the year, is now Jalen Williams. If the Thunder are just going to shut down SGA, which is their modus operandi, that's definitely something they might do. Jalen's going to see huge usage the rest of the way. And he might not be shooting a ton. He's actually only got a 24% usage rate his last 5 without SGA, but he's scoring 22.5. And the assists have gone way up. 6 assists per game in 32 minutes. And DraftKings giving you plus 125 to get 5 dimes here against a Jazz team that plays much worse defense on the road. He was at Utah last month, Jalen, when he had 9, 6, and 2, pretty standard quiet line, because SGA's out there scoring 40 with a 36% usage rate. And now it's a different looking Thunder team. We've seen him go 25 points basically in his last 2 games here against the Lakers and Kings. And the Jazz scoring and allowing 119 their last 4 roadies, also allowing and handing out 25 assists. So it's just like a more free-flowing game in OKC here. I think Jalen will be handling the ball a lot and will get those 5 assists for you. If you want to tack on points, 17.5. I also think he probably gets there too, or 21.5 if you want to combine the two.
What are my guys' steals at? That's what I want to know, because Jalen Williams is a freaking defensive maniac. I love him so much. I love this rookie class. I can't believe how many guys in this class are like worth talking about. But Jalen Williams, huge for them. And honestly, it's not converting to wins for them right now. I do think Shai comes back, to be honest with you. But because I don't think this is a full on tank. But you can get over 1.5 steals for Jalen Williams at plus 115. I love that, man. He's had a game with 6 steals, averaging more than 2 a game. I am about to ride. I did not think I would ever say this. I'm about to ride Jalen Williams all the way to the championship in my fantasy league because of how many steals he gets. The dude's been really, really good this year. I'm coming for you, Mo. By the way, that's a direct threat. So I would love any of his stats moving forward for the rest of the season. J Will, as he's known out there, since there's 2 Jalen Williams, by the way. So he is known as J Will when you're talking about him. But another guy here to finish things off for us, to finish off stars. I think we got a bunch of stars here in the making. A couple rooks and a couple studs. Trae Young. It's his time of year, man. He got his coach fired. He's ready for the turnaround. The Hawks are winning games and scoring points, whatever they figured out. Quinn Snyder's coming in right away, by the way, which is awesome. Like, he's already been in there and coaching away. 26.5 points for tonight for Trae. I thought that was young. Jesus Christ. I thought that was low as well for Trae Young. Minus 110 on DraftKings. 2.5 threes for him. He's not always hitting 3 threes, but it's plus 150, right? For him to get all those, for him to make 3 of them in a game where it's against Dame. It's against the Portland Trailblazers, as we say, because they got no D. And Dame's prop is at 36.5, by the way, if you want to take a spicy ass prop there. But just lets you know that these two guys are going to be going at it back and forth, not necessarily trying to defend each other, but definitely trying to outshoot each other and outscore each other. And in the 3 since Nasty Nate McMillan got fired, fired. There are 33 points a game for Trey, 8 assists, 40% usage with 33 minutes a game out there. So a point a minute and 2.5 threes or so on 39% clip. So as long as he gets like 9 3-point attempts, he's going to make 3 of them. And maybe only 8 is all it takes at this point. So I think there's some pretty good reason to think that he would do that in this game. There's not going to be a lot of defense on any kind of pick and roll that he's got from like a Drew Eubanks, for instance, or whomever at this point is playing defense for Portland since they traded their best players on defense and aren't left with much. So point guards is also a really big weakness for Portland in terms of where they're giving up points and allowing the most assists in that range for Trey. So it's just a really good matchup for him in a situation. I think he'll be pretty successful.
Yeah, and you expect Dame to at least bring the best out of Trey, is why you think about the fact that he's projected to score like 40 like he always does, and you just can't have any energy left. I mean, the Blazers' schedule, this is already their 4th game of the week since Sunday. I mean, it's just like, and Dame carrying that load, I don't know what he can possibly do on defense. I don't think either of these guys are good defenders if they match up on each other, and that's why the threes might be flowing there if Trey is trying to get a little chesty and go blow for blow. The fact that you have DeJounte out there means Portland has to maybe use Tybal, their one good perimeter defender now, on him. You can't just necessarily try to trap Trey, but in any case, yeah, he's scoring on anybody. You mean put up huge numbers against Cleveland. So, since he got a coach fired, he's been lighting it up.
And that's what he does, man. So, yeah, I think it's a pretty good opportunity for him. But that's all the time we have for you guys in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Check out the other couple videos we have on this big slate in the NBA tonight. Until we see you next, happy betting.